You're about to hear 6 stories about the strangest, most unsettling things a doorbell camera can catch on tape. Every one of these is a work of fiction, written for this channel, but if you've ever owned one of these things, you already know. It never quite feels like it's only recording what it says it's recording. Let's get into it. Story 1: The 1-second man. Every clip is the same length, 1 second, then nothing, like the camera itself decided it had seen enough. Kayla installed the doorbell the way most people do, mostly to catch package thieves, and for the first 2 months it worked exactly the way the box promised. Motion alerts for the mail carrier. Motion alerts for her own car pulling into the driveway. Nothing worth a second look. The first odd clip came in at 2 in the morning, a single second of a man standing at her door close enough that only his chest and shoulders fit in frame, gone again before the recording even properly started, like the app had clipped the beginning off. She almost deleted it without watching twice. She didn't, because 2 nights later, it happened again. Same distance from the door. Same 1 second. This time she noticed his hands were folded in front of him, patient, the way someone stands when they're waiting for something they're sure is coming. By the 4th clip, she started keeping a folder. Always 2 in the morning, give or take a few minutes. Always exactly 1 second. Always cut off at the exact same point, like the system had a rule about how much of him it was allowed to show her. She called the company's support line, half expecting to be laughed at, and instead got a very calm, very practiced answer: motion clips end when motion stops. If the recording was cutting off, it meant that, for exactly 1 second, he moved, and then, for however long he was actually standing there, he didn't. That was the part that stayed with her. Not that a stranger was on her porch at 2 in the morning. That he was standing still enough for long enough that a camera built to notice movement. Genuinely couldn't find any. She checked the full night's log 2 weeks later, after she finally worked up the nerve. Filtering only for motion events, expecting the usual smattering of nothing. Between 1:50 and 4 a.m. That night, there were no other alerts at all. Not a cat. Not a moth near the lens. Nothing except him appearing at exactly 2 for exactly 1 second, as if that single second of movement were a courtesy. A way of letting her know he'd arrived. Kayla still has the doorbell. She's added a second camera since then, angled down the street, hoping it might catch him walking away from a direction the first one can't see. In 8 months, it never has. He's never once been caught arriving, either. Only ever already there for 1 second, right before he stops. Story 2: 11 hours. The notification history said nothing happened that night. The footage said otherwise for 11 straight hours. Marcus only found out because his storage plan renewed and the app, unprompted, offered to let him review unwatched motion events older than 30 days. He almost closed it. He opened it instead, mostly out of curiosity about what a smart camera considered worth flagging that a human hadn't bothered to check. One clip was timestamped for a Tuesday 3 months back, 11 hours long, filed under a single continuous motion event, which shouldn't have been possible. The camera was built to cut a clip after 60 seconds of continued motion and start afresh. This was one file. 11 hours. never once triggering the phone notification that should have gone off the second it started. He watched the first few minutes standing in his kitchen, phone in hand, telling himself it was a bug. A raccoon maybe stuck in frame, some glitch in the motion algorithm that kept resetting the timer. It wasn't a raccoon. It was a person standing at the edge of the porch light, angled just enough that the cameras. Night vision caught a pale wash of a face and nothing else useful, not moving in any way. Human normally holds still, and yet, according to the file, moving constantly, continuously. For the entire 11 hours, never once dropping below the threshold that would have ended the clip. He scrubbed forward. 2 hours in, nothing changed. 6 hours in, nothing changed. He forced himself to watch the very end, the only part where anything did, at the 10-hour. 59-minute mark, the figure took one single step directly toward the camera, close. Enough to fill the frame with the pale wash of a face that still refused to resolve into anything he could describe afterward, and then the recording simply ended. Not because the motion stopped. The file just stopped mid-frame, like something had reached the lens itself. He called the company again the next morning, calmer this time, asking the only question that mattered: why had it never notified him? Their answer was almost worse than no answer at all. Their system had a rate limit, they explained, designed to stop the app from spamming a single continuous event with hundreds of alerts. After the first ping, it goes silent until the event ends. He checked his phone. Somewhere in that untouched, unremembered morning 3 months ago, exactly one notification had gone out. He'd slept through it completely. Marcus still has the doorbell. He's turned the notification volume up as loud as it will go, and he checks the unwatched events folder every single week now, whether the app prompts him to or not. So far, nothing else has run past 60 seconds. He knows that isn't the same as nothing else happening. It just means if it has, he hasn't found it yet. Story 3: Live View. Somebody used the two-way talk feature on Priya's doorbell at 3 in the morning. Her phone never rang. She found out by accident, scrolling through the app's activity log after a totally unrelated dispute with a delivery service, and noticed an entry she didn't recognize: Live View accessed. 3:04 a.m., duration 4 minutes, audio enabled. Live View was the feature she used maybe twice a month, mostly to check who was ringing before she answered the door. It required opening the app and actively tapping into the camera feed. It did not activate on its own. It had never once, in a year of ownership, shown up in her log without her having personally opened it. She checked the timestamp against her phone's own usage history, the boring built-in screen time log she'd never had a reason to look at before. At 3:04 that morning, her phone had been locked, face down on her nightstand, untouched for 6 straight hours. Whoever had opened Live View, it hadn't been her, and it hadn't been from her phone at all. The doorbell's manufacturer offered shared access to other devices logged into the same account, which meant technically anyone with her login could have opened it from anywhere in the world. She changed the password immediately. She checked the connected devices list before she did. One entry sat there she'd never seen before, logged in for exactly 4 minutes, 3:04 to 3:08, and then never again, a device type the app simply listed as unknown. Support couldn't tell her anything more specific than that, only confirming, gently, that yes. Whoever it was could have both seen and heard through her porch camera in real time, and yes. The two-way talk feature meant they could have spoken through it too, though her own audio log showed no outgoing speech had been recorded that night. Just 4 minutes of someone silently watching her porch live at 3 in the morning, saying nothing at all. She thought that was the end of it until she reviewed the porch footage from that exact window. Herself 3:04 to 3:08, expecting an empty porch. It wasn't empty. For the entire 4 minutes, at the very edge of the frame, barely inside it, someone was standing perfectly still, facing the camera directly, as if they knew exactly where to stand to be watched back. Priya changed every password she owns. She's added two-factor authentication to everything, and she stopped believing the little green light that means the app thinks nobody's watching. She knows now it isn't the same as nobody actually being there. Story 4, Proof of Delivery. The app said the package was delivered at 6:14 p.m. No truck. No driver. No box until the next morning, when Tomas found one anyway. He'd ordered nothing that week, which was the first thing that struck him as strange when the delivery notification came through, complete with a thumbnail photo the app generates. Automatically, proof of delivery, a small brown box sitting dead center on his welcome mat. He checked the actual clip attached to that notification, expecting a delivery driver, a truck, anything. The motion event was 4 seconds long, and it showed only the box itself, already sitting on the mat, appearing in the very first frame with no one having placed it there, as if it had simply been present the entire time, and the camera had only just decided to notice. He went outside immediately. There was no box on his porch. He checked the thumbnail again, the timestamp again, the address on the delivery confirmation. Again, all correct, all pointing to a package that, as far as his own front door was concerned, did not exist. He assumed it was a system error, a mixed-up address, someone else's delivery misfiled into his account, and told himself that right up until the next morning, when he opened his door to leave for work and found a small brown box sitting exactly where the thumbnail had shown it, in exactly the same lighting, at an hour when his porch light had been off for hours. He didn't open it. He called the number on the shipping label instead, and the number connected to nothing, an automated message informing him the mailbox was full and could not accept new messages, for a courier company that, according to every search he ran afterward, did not appear to exist under that name anywhere at all. The box sat on his porch for 3 days before he worked up the nerve to move it, wearing gloves, setting it directly into his outside trash bin without opening it. He checked the footage from that moment, out of habit more than anything. The clip showed him carrying the box to the bin, exactly as he remembered doing it. It also showed the box still sitting on the mat afterward, in the very next frame, as though his trip to the bin and the box along with it had never actually happened at all. Tomas still gets the occasional delivery notification for packages he never ordered. He stopped opening the app to check the thumbnail. He'd rather not know some mornings what's already sitting on the mat before he's opened the door to look. Story 5, Next Door. The man in Renata's neighbor's doorbell footage was wearing her coat. She was in bed at the time, 20 feet and one shared wall away. Her neighbor Bill mentioned it first, half joking over the fence, asking why she'd come by so Late the night before and not bothered to knock, just stood on his porch for almost a minute. Before walking off, she hadn't left her apartment once that night. She'd fallen asleep before 10. He showed her the clip to prove it, more amused than concerned, and she watched herself or something built to pass as herself at a glance, standing on his porch in her own coat, her own posture at 11:41 that night, according to the timestamp in the corner of his app. She asked to see his phone's actual settings, checking the time zone, the date, anything that might explain a technical glitch. Everything matched. 11:41, the same night, the same address, a person who looked enough like her to fool. A neighbor who'd known her for 3 years, standing exactly where she'd never stood at an hour. She could prove, through her own phone's location history, that she had been asleep in her own bed. Bill wasn't concerned yet. She was. She asked if she could keep a copy of the clip and zoomed in on it that night at home, alone, looking for the one detail that would prove it wasn't her, a birthmark she has near her left ear, always visible in this kind of lighting, always the first thing that gave away photos of her from that angle. The footage showed nothing on that side of her face at all. Not the birthmark, not skin, not anything the zoom could resolve into an answer. Just a soft, featureless blur exactly where it should have been. She checked her own doorbell's footage from that same window next, the one facing her own front door, 20 feet from Bill's. For the entire 11:40 to 11:45 stretch, her own camera had logged no motion. Events. Not a locked door standing quietly. An actual gap in the recording, the kind the app only ever produced during a connectivity outage, and her internet logs that night showed no outage at all. Renata still lives next to Bill. She started saying goodnight to him earlier now, before it gets late enough for either of their cameras to matter, and she's never once told him the real reason she asked to keep that clip or why she still has it saved, unopened, in a folder she can't quite make herself delete. Story 6, the archive. The same 4-second clip had been quietly resaving itself as new every single night for 4 months before Devin noticed. He only caught it because his storage plan flagged an unusual pattern, identical file sizes, identical duration night after night, which the app's own fraud detection system had misread as a possible camera malfunction, and finally escalated into a support ticket he hadn't asked for. The support technician walked him through it over chat, more puzzled than alarmed at first. 4 seconds of porch footage, time-stamped a new night each time, but frame for frame, pixel for pixel identical, the same angle, the same faint motion of a moth near the light, the same everything, saved fresh into his cloud archive every night for what the system's logs now showed was 126 consecutive nights. He pulled up the oldest surviving copy himself, the very first instance, and watched it more carefully than he ever had the first time it came through as an ordinary, forgettable motion. Alert. Empty porch. A moth. 4 seconds. Nothing that should have mattered enough to matter now. The technician asked him, almost as an afterthought, whether he'd actually been getting a nightly notification for this clip the entire time, the way the system should have once per new save. He checked. He had 126 identical notifications, sitting unread and unremarked in a folder. His phone had long since started auto-archiving without asking him, each one indistinguishable. From routine noise, each one, technically, a small quiet proof that something in the system. Considered this specific 4 seconds worth preserving again and again and again. He asked the only question that felt like it mattered: why this clip? Why this one specific ordinary 4 seconds, out of 1,000 equally ordinary ones sitting? His archive from the same period. The technician couldn't answer that. The system, they explained, didn't log a reason. It only logged the action over and over faithfully without ever explaining what it thought. It was protecting, or from what? Devin deleted the clip that night, all 126 saved copies of it, and went to sleep telling himself that was the end of it. The next morning, a new notification was waiting, time-stamped for a night that hadn't happened. Yet 4 seconds long, exactly the length it had always been. If you trust a green light that says nobody's watching, maybe don't check the archive too closely tonight. That's it for this one. If you liked it, you know what to do.